Hello everybody and welcome back to the P1 podcast with Matt and Tommy. It's Lando Norris's day today and I cannot believe I'm saying that out loud. Oh my God. Tommy, I have not calmed down. It's been a few hours since the race ended. And I am so happy for Lando Norris and McLaren and all the fans that support them, because what a story, what a moment. I am buzzing.
Yeah, I did not have on my bingo card that Miami would deliver a good sprint and a good race. And I said this after the, during the celebrations and stuff, Formula One needed that. It was great to see. It was a great story, great race as well. And the celebrations afterwards were amazing, but we'll get into it because it was just great. It was just so wholesome and wonderful.
So we're going to start with my most memorable moment. And it was, of course, Lando Norris winning.
No.
Of course. How could it not be? I said it a little bit in funniest tweets, but for those of you that haven't seen that, Lando Norris got a lot of unfair criticism for, well, mainly his record, his unwanted record of most podiums without a victory. Now, I would say that some of the criticism he received recently of moments in qualifying, whatever, where he's potentially thrown it away. Let's think of, of course, the sprint in China and turn one there. Yes, Lando has made mistakes. However, it did not warrant people to question whether his ability was to put him in the realms of the top drivers on the grid. He absolutely does deserve to be there. And today is a reassurance for those that weren't convinced after Russia. I was convinced after Russia that he had the minerals. It was a 50-50 gamble that didn't pay off. Today, he had the car, he had the tyres, and he drove away from Max Verstappen. It wasn't a DRS battle. It wasn't close. Lando dominated, and quite frankly, I'm sick of it. I was hoping for like a little side-by-side battle or something, but instead, Lando decided to drive away and give us a boring end to the race.
Yeah, it's the Lewis Hamilton meme of like, will Lando Norris dominance bore fans? But it was surprising, and what I will say is what a way for Lando to get that first win as well. He's done it in a race where Verstappen was there. He raced Max Verstappen at the end. Max didn't have a problem or anything, and he's just inherited. It's not a race where he's run obviously P2 behind Max Verstappen so many times. He's finished P2 in so many races, and it's not even a race. Yes, he was obviously got a bit of good fortune with the safety car, but he had amazing pace, and he ended up in that one-on-one fight with Max Verstappen at the end. And for all the criticism that he gets about not being able to win a race and he'll bottle it in the big moments, another thing is the fact that Verstappen, he's also got a lot of criticism that Verstappen would basically dominate. Like if Verstappen was like leading the race, Lando has been sort of like lets him go a lot and doesn't really defend him, and he beat him in a fair fight at the end there. So it was really good to watch.
Quite rightly so. He only does not defend when there is no reason to defend, just like every driver on the grid decides to not defend, unless you're Kevin Magnuson this weekend. Kevin Magnuson was defending everything for his life or fighting for P19 like it was for the World Championship. But usually drivers will think, no, my race is longer than this. My race is with the cars behind or whatever it might be. But Lando would have fought tooth and nail for that, but didn't need to because Max not only fell behind Lando when the safety car came out, but also didn't have fresh tyres compared to Lando. So first question, DJ Ferrari F1. Would Norris have won without the safety car? He had better race pace than Verstappen, but was it enough to catch and pass him and the others in front? I do not believe that he would have won the race had he not had the safety car to benefit him. It was only a 9-second pit stop when you have the safety car out, which is a lot of time that you lose when that's out there. He would have fallen behind the likes of Charles Leclerc. he would have fallen behind maybe even Sainz and Piastri. But of course, Piastri had that issue. Would he have flown through? I'm not so sure. I think obviously he would have had better race pace, but we saw that he had better race pace than Sergio Perez. And it took him it took Perez literally pitting for him to then get some clean air and put some good speed in. So I would hazard a guess and say, no, I don't think he would have won. And we would have been sat here going, oh, if it had gone a bit better for Lando, he had some good pace. He could have won this race if he'd maybe been in Piastri's position. But instead, him going a little bit longer and being that second McLaren at the time worked out beautifully for him.
Yeah, it's actually pretty wild that his first win came in a race where no one was really calling it. You know, he's had the brilliant moments where he's got a pole position or he's been on the front row, and you end up kind of thinking that that's Lando Norris's time to shine. But the fact that he didn't, he delivered when that was, you know, kind of unexpectedly. I think throughout the whole race, if anything, we were looking at like, oh, Piastri, can Piastri win this? And then when Lando is, you know, he looked like he was sort of biding his time, and you could tell that he was sort of saving his tyres and hoping for a Magnuson miracle, which he got. But this is what you have to do in Formula One. You have to think of the bigger picture, and he went long, and it worked out. But I don't think he would have won without the safety car. But that's not to take anything away from the victory.
No, it's more just the fact that Miami was quite difficult to pass. We saw that it was. We did have a lot of action. I will be fair and say that Miami did actually produce a lot more than we expected. But with how high the temperatures were and how sensitive and fragile the tyres were to the temperatures, I think that Lando following the Ferraris and then trying to get through on Max, I think it would have been a little bit too much to ask from him. Next question, PamCat30. Are you going to talk about the massive safety car mistake? Picked up the wrong car, which was Verstappen in second place. Let Lando go from a 11-second lead to over 30 seconds. Now this, thankfully, I think for the FIA, didn't affect the race. But myself and Tommy, the pit stop strategy extraordinaires on the pit wall, thought that perhaps if McLaren had a fresh set of mediums or a usable set of mediums. Now, I don't have anything confirmed that they didn't have it, but they'd pitted with Lando, put him onto the hards, which then ticks off the you've used two different dry compounds of tyres. He could have, with that 30-second lead he then received because of the FIA getting it wrong, pitted again, put back on the mediums, and then won by 30 seconds perhaps. I'm convinced that medium tyre would have worked beautifully. That's why McLaren, they made the right decision by going long on those mediums, because he was going quicker than Max Verstappen on fresh hards. That McLaren was absolutely rapid on those yellow wall tyres. Now, that being said, it didn't happen. Therefore, there's no uproar here, because I wonder as well if Verstappen fans would have then questioned, well, if Lando had to stay on the hards, what's to say that Max couldn't have won that race? So they were saved their blushes, I think, with that one, because it didn't really change anything.
Yeah, I would be interested to see what would happen with if he'd have gone into the pits, the safety car had not basically blocked Max and set him at a safety car speed, which meant Lando could easily get ahead. I wonder if Lando would have got in the pack or not. I'm sure that's the kind of thing that we'll see in post-race kind of analysis and stuff where people work it out, you know, like on F1 TV and things like that, because it would be interesting to see if he would have kind of slotted back into the pack, which would have obviously made it a lot more difficult. But yeah, we joked about this in the watch-along that maybe it was just the safety car driver so used to picking up Max thinking he's leading that they're like, oh, Max must be in the lead. And it was, very, very odd.
It was strange, but as I say, thankfully, nothing really changed as far as we could see. Next question, Jan Trebasic. Obviously, McLaren was lucky with the safety car and the Red Bull didn't work at all, but still, the McLaren was the fastest car in the race with the upgrades. Does this mean championship back on, Red Bull versus McLaren? I would hesitate to go as far as that. I would say that a lot of signs point to it being at least promising. But let's not forget that Miami, very unique track, constantly dusty and offline. It's terrible when all the drivers were struggling pretty much throughout the weekend. Throw in massively high track temperatures as well, wind gusting. There was a lot of factors that made Miami very difficult. So what I will say is that it's very difficult to maybe measure how good those McLaren upgrades are. However, I'm prefacing all of this stuff, but I'm also going, yes, championship back on, Lando Norris to win the world championship. That's the kind of, I'm trying so hard to press the brakes slightly on that, but I'm thinking Silverstone. I'm thinking, I don't know, other mid to high speed tracks perhaps.
Maybe even the next race.
It's promising. Imola next, if they can qualify well. We'll have to see. Let's see what qualifying brings in Imola. If McLaren are right up there again, we can start waving our McLaren flags. Charles Leclerc who?
I do think, while I'm not going to jump on it and say, yeah, like McLaren now have the best car and Red Bull are washed, I do think that race highlighted maybe the fact that this Red Bull is not an absolute dominant, like...
It's not bulletproof, is it?
It's not a 2014 Mercedes. It's not a 1988 McLaren or something where you're just going to win so easily every race. And it isn't bulletproof, like you say. Max genuinely wasn't pulling away from Oscar at the start. We know that was the case now, because at the start you were kind of thinking, as soon as the pit stops start coming in, he'll start pulling up a lead and start to increase that gap. But it didn't happen. And I think I'm not going to say that championship back on and all that. It would take a big stretch, but I do think it is going to be more intriguing now, and I think there will be opportunities to beat Max Verstappen. I don't think he's going to be untouchable and will be like needing, essentially the only way you're ever going to win is a Singapore or him having a brake fire now, because the car isn't miles ahead of the pack, and particularly not McLaren.
Absolutely not. Exciting times. Maybe, just maybe, this isn't a flash in the pan. I'm so ready for it if it's the case. Let's throw in Ferrari as well. Let's not forget them. Come on, here we go. And also, I think as we've just mentioned Oscar, I think we should definitely throw him in there. There's a question from Wynando Torres. Do you think after the Lando win, Oscar will get a win soon, maybe even this season? Now, I want to say, first and foremost, Oscar Piastri did an absolutely sensational job today. Of course, very unlucky with Carlos Sainz, who slid into his front wing, ruined his race. But up until that point, Oscar Piastri was driving like someone I've not seen, I don't think, since he's joined Formula One. He has had incredible qualifying sessions. He's won the Qatar sprint because, of course, he put himself in that position. But I would say, hands down, that race he did was easily the most impressive he's been. Being right in the mix, 3 seconds off Max pretty much the entirety of that first stint. And he was doing everything he needed to be on the podium at the very least. So for me, if this is, again, with a few upgrades, I think he had half the upgrades of what Lando did. If this is now a step forward for McLaren and step forward maybe for Oscar and his confidence in the races and being able to keep the tyres in a good window. And let's not forget, Miami was so fragile with how hot the temperatures were. You had to be very careful with them to keep them in a good operating window. And Oscar did that. So for me, let's see. Perhaps it just worked for Oscar this weekend, but I would like to think that he's maybe got a bit of a handle on it.
I think that was the best Grand Prix he's had in terms of, like you say, like a full-length race. Really, really impressive from him. And yeah, the fact that he didn't have all the upgrades and was, at the start, he was the one that was battling Max and fighting at the front. It is incredibly unlucky that his race unraveled. It was incredibly unfair. What I will say is, oh my word, I've never shouted so loud as to when Oscar was dive bombing people and going for moves at the end, because because of the narrative around Lando and how sort of unfortunate he's been, and you're hoping he's got that first win. It felt like a very long race at the end when you knew he was in an amazing position, and every single incident you were like, well, another safety car restart and Max could have him. And instead, you watch, of all people, if Oscar had been the one that bought a safety car restart and then Max had got him, it would have been absolutely horrendous.
Especially with him fighting for P16 or something. It was just...
Yeah. What I will say, actually, that we've
sketchy.
not actually mentioned is that safety car restart, and I thought he'd blown it straight away because he did not get a good run at all. But he did redeem himself by covering the inside, being forceful, and he knew that Max then wouldn't be able to pass him in that twisty section because he's not Kevin Magnuson and doesn't go for those gaps.
He was a lucky boy, though. Of course, he knows where turn 1 is. It's not a long run down there. But had it been a longer run down towards turn 1, I think Lando's in trouble.
Yeah, big time.
The fact that he didn't just back the pack up and go out of I'm speaking like I'm a Formula 1 driver, but we've seen it in the past. You go a little bit earlier than that. But Lando seemed to almost copy what Max does at other tracks, where he crawls all the way to the line and then bolts.
So you can't get slipstream.
Yeah, but Lando kind of went straight after the corner, and Max was sat there going, "Oh, lovely, little bit of slipstream here we go, a little bit of a chance down towards turn 1, which he should never have got." But
Verstappen was probably like, "Mate, that's not going to work on me."
Yes, exactly. But he still didn't get through. So thankfully for Lando. Question from P1 Patreon member James BWFC22. Is this one of, if not the most wholesome win ever? Everyone in the pits seems so proud of Lando finally winning. It's certainly up there. I was emotional. I could feel tears in my eyes when we were watching it on the watch along. It was just such a special moment, I think, for Lando, who you could see his reaction, his emotion. It's what the sport needed. It's what Formula One needed as a whole, with the fans and everybody. I think it almost was a bit of a climax in some ways for everybody, in terms of just, Max has dominated for so long, and having a new winner like Lando winning was just such a special moment. And to see everybody cheering, McLaren as well, such a well-loved team, it all just came together as just one very special moment. Lando, of course, everyone remembering Russia and how that was torn away from him. And yeah, I don't think there were many people that weren't happy for him. And if you are one of those people, you need to look yourself in the mirror.
Yes, indeed. It reminded me of that meme, I said it on the watch along, where I don't know what TV show it's from, but I think he's the president of the US, and he's like shaking hands with everyone. And a lot of people like change it to be like, this is this person, because it was literally where like Lando got out the car and then it's like, oh yeah, he's really good friends with Verstappen, I think I'd be really pleased for him. And then it was like, Lewis came up to him and clapped him or whatever, and then you saw Charles, who's really good mates with him, and then George is really good mates with him, and Danny Rick is really good mates with him. So you just basically saw like every driver's reaction to like him winning, which was really, really cool, because I just love those moments in Formula One, especially the fact that it's been a long time coming as well, and he is a really popular driver, and the other drivers know his talent as well. We've joked about how the fact that like some Twitter people, armchair experts can be like, oh, Lando's so washed and he's a terrible driver. People like Lewis Hamilton have like praised him his whole career, and Lewis Hamilton is a lot better judging of a driver's talent than someone on Twitter. So it was great to see.
Yeah, and then everyone sort of feeding that there's this beef between Lando and Lewis and all this sort of stuff from comments Lando said. And then you see the onboard of Hamilton just going alongside Lando.
Did you hear the radio as well?
Giving it an applause and everything.
When he got told on the radio that Lando won, he was like, oh, that's awesome. Like he was like really cool. Pleased.
Yeah,
and
he was really
that's what I love about when you get like those first wins. It's those moments where you get to watch them celebrate it. It's really cool.
Now, I will also mention, which I've just seen, which is quite funny, that speaking of safety cars and would Max have still won and whatnot, I don't know what the question was that Max was asked, but I imagine it's around the safety car and whether he would have won and all that sort of stuff. And Max replied, "If my mum had balls, she would be my dad."
That is absolutely superb. Wow.
Oh God, I just saw it and I was like, I have to mention that.
That is brilliant. Fair play
and
to
Lando
him.
and Charles were laughing their heads off.
That is amazing.
Post-race presser. So
fair play to Max for saying that as well, because he could have quite easily.
He could have said, "Yeah, we would have won."
Yeah, we would have won,
but...
and like tried to like take it away from Lando a bit and stuff. But
yeah, he was just like, "It's part of racing. It just sometimes happens and that sort of stuff." So. Love that from Max, and it was so funny as well to see after the race that he genuinely looked happier for Lando to win than when he wins.
Yeah, it's true.
He literally looked more chuffed at times to see Lando winning. But yes, so that pretty much sums up my most memorable moment and all the McLaren Lando Norris stuff. Tommy, what's yours? What's your most memorable moment?
My most memorable moment is about Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez, and that absolutely wild moment at turn one. Not just that, but also Verstappen's reaction, which as soon as it happened, I was just like not wanting to wish away the race, but I was like, I need him in the cool down room to react to this immediately because you knew it would be a great reaction. After his reaction to watching, was it Stroll and Ricciardo, you knew, and you could tell as well that I don't think he knew that even happened. I don't think he was aware of how close. He wouldn't have had a clue.
Shocked.
So he watched it and he was literally just like taken back. It was the perfect reaction. It was so funny.
At the picture.
It's so good.
There is the funniest zoom in of Max's face.
It's so
like literally
good.
like this. It's
absolutely amazing. But also just the incident itself, like, is unbelievable how he managed to avoid him. It was one of those things where how different the race could have gone if Perez had just wiped into the side of Verstappen. I can't believe after that moment Max didn't end up winning, because it was kind of like one of those moments where you watch it and go, God, Max is never not winning again, is he? Because he's just missed that by 0.2 of a millimeter or whatever, because it was so close. And not only how that would have happened to Max's race, just think the narrative of Sergio Perez going into a week break of him taking Verstappen out of the Grand Prix at turn one, and how that would have affected his future and who's going to get the Red Bull seat and stuff. That would be...
The conversations would have been wild.
Would have been huge.
Yes, for sure. But thankfully for him, he got away with it. I imagine Max probably would have a word or two
I think more
to say
luck
about
than judgment.
Yes. Question from Ra Design. Which do you think happens first? K-Mag gets 12 penalty points and suspended, or Logan Sargent loses his seat? I think Kevin Magnuson, I said this on Funniest Tweets, I reckon he's got an important birthday coming up. Whether it's his wife, one of his children. He tried to get Imola off, I think, because he drove like a man possessed. I imagine, I haven't seen confirmation, but I imagine he'll be up to 11 penalty points now after he was on 8, and then he's wiped out Logan Sargent. If he's not getting 3 for that, then something is very wrong with the FIA penalty point system.
Or they just hate Alonso.
Well, there is that, and Alonso is very convinced that is the case. So I would put my money on K-Mag getting 12 penalty points. However, we've never seen it before, and we have discussed in the past that the FIA will do anything to not ban a driver, and they'll bottle it, and they'll actually, K-Mag, I know you've absolutely destroyed Alex Albon into turn 1 at Imola, but we are going to remove 2 penalty points because we feel like you've learnt something this time. It is a bit of a difficult one, but if anyone's going to get 12 penalty points, it will be K-Mag.
Well, I kind of love Kevin Magnuson for his driving and the fact that he does entertain and he goes for moves. That whole weekend is a proper case of if he doesn't get a race ban, no one is ever getting a race ban, because the whole point of a race ban and penalty points is it's to stop repeat offending. And he has done it not even like repeat offending throughout a season. He's done it throughout a weekend, throughout one race. He has just racked up so many penalty points. And you think as well, like everything that happened, and this is a debate that we didn't get into in the sprint, and I think one that would change a lot with time penalties, because I think it's making a mockery of time penalties what Magnussen's doing now, is that there is no consequence because he just gets all these penalties. It seems like he only got 3 penalty points for that for yesterday, which is absolutely outrageous how that can be the same as Alonso for his move on Sainz in the sprint, when he did multiple things, drove off the track, cut the corner, crashed into the side of Hamilton, dangerous driving, and then for him to then go into the race and make a really reckless move and crash. And then he also got something like he didn't serve his penalty properly as well. He was under investigation for that. How are you not banning him? I don't want to see a driver banned, but the whole law of this surely is that it's to stop people driving like that, and he has just basically taken the mick if he doesn't get a race ban, because it is the whole point of it is meant to stop you basically just taking the beep, and that's exactly what he's doing all weekend.
So, Tommy, decide, K-Mag or Logan Sargent? K-Mag getting 12 points or Logan Sargent losing his seat?
Logan Sargent loses his seat, because I don't think that I'm still on that hype train that the FIA will bottle it if they have to suspend a driver. They'll never do it.
Okay. Wow, we will see. Depends how bad K-Mag gets in Imola when he's blocking everybody for Hulkenberg for 10th place again. Next question, Annalise Cameron. Should Sainz get a penalty for the collision with Oscar? Well, as of right now, I don't think there's been a decision, because it was being investigated after the race, as far as I was concerned. Is that right? Yeah.
Yep.
So for me, yes, he should get a penalty because he was out of control, slid, and literally ripped off his front wing. So for me, it's pretty slam dunk that Carlos has misjudged it. It wasn't a K-Mag kind of move, but I also think that it's deserving of a penalty. Sort of to add on to this, I'm very surprised that Carlos Sainz is saying that he would have won the race had he stopped when the safety car, if he'd stopped just after the safety car came out. I'm not sure where the Ferrari pace was to beat Lando Norris today, but alas, Sainz, I believe, was not too happy with Oscar Piastri either. Let's not forget that there was a incident earlier on into the dreaded K-Mag. Well, the K-Mag Lewis Hamilton, Nico Hulkenberg Lewis Hamilton corner. Basically, most things that kicked off was in that corner, and Sainz was trying to bargain, saying, "Look, if he gives me the position back, then McLaren won't get a penalty. Tell McLaren that." All this sort of stuff. It was quite a strange way of trying to get that position.
It was. Oscar's was a bit cheeky, but I think it was one of those ones where you kind of get away with one and then do it again, you're in trouble. Whereas Carlos actually going up the inside and making contact, that is a penalty, especially because it kind of broke Oscar's wing as well. So I think Sainz should get a penalty for the collision, because he was out of control when going for the move, basically.
Absolutely. Next question, Kev1_LT. What do we make of Yuki being ahead in a V-carb of Stroll in an Aston in the championship? What do we make of that? I think what we make of that is that Lance Stroll is being Lance Stroll and Yuki Tsunoda is doing very, very well. It's no different Lance Stroll to last year in the sense of what he's delivered so far. Yuki Tsunoda, on the other hand, was being slandered only yesterday because Daniel Ricciardo was putting in an amazing sprint performance. But what Yuki Tsunoda did is deliver an incredible full feature race, whatever you want to call it. So for me, I don't think we don't need to talk about Lance Stroll anymore. We're all very aware of how little he's kind of performing at this current stage and contributing to the team, to the sport. But with Yuki Tsunoda, I'm glad to see he's bounced back after what looked like some Daniel Ricciardo momentum. But it's since gone back to Yuki again. It's constantly chopping and changing, and it's not like it's a couple of positions here. It's either incredible or disastrous at VCARB.
Yeah, Yuki turned it around really, because he actually ended up getting a point in the sprint despite his awful qualifying. And then to get P7 again, I think obviously Lando rightfully gets driver of the day and the plaudits and stuff. And despite Bottas, for some reason, getting 12% of the vote, I think Yuki would probably be someone that should be like second on that list, along with maybe like Oscar Piastri, because I think Yuki drove a really good race. He beat a Mercedes, picked up a load more points, and just a really, really good drive from Yuki Tsunoda again. And yeah, very, very impressive indeed. I think it's another one of those drives where it was kind of like, oh, after that mistake, and he had a bit of a bad sprint qualifying, and it was like, oh god, here we go again. And then he remembered I said biggest flop, and he was like, no, actually I'm going to be really good now.
Yeah,
I'm really pleased.
Popped in a P7 just so you don't get a point, because biggest flop is my territory, but we'll get on to that. Absolutely. I also think we should definitely throw in the fact that through all of this chaos, through Lando Norris winning the race, Esteban Ocon got a point for Alpine. Alpine are finally off the mark, and they've scored a singular point. And Ocon drove very well today. Lots of moves out there, and fought with Alonso at the end. Didn't come out on top in that battle, but those two not as, let's say, at each other's throats as perhaps some people suggest, because they posted a picture afterwards, didn't they?
I know, the kind of the wholesomeness of that Grand Prix continues. The fact that Ocon and Alonso posting a selfie, being like, that was a good battle. And one thing that they didn't even show in the highlights that I didn't even remember until I was going back through the Twitch VOD to send a clip over for us to make, was I forgot the most unbelievable battle between the two Alpines that went side by side through every corner. It's not even in the highlights. They don't show it because it kind of...
Why?
I know. It was amazing. And I don't know how they didn't crash. They gave each other just enough room. And I don't understand how they went through that chicane, because that chicane is is barely even one car wide. And the fact that they went side by side through that whole sector, unbelievable stuff.
It's like in the Avengers, where there was like 1.7 million scenarios or whatever it is, and one outcome where they don't crash, and we saw that.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know. I mean, it's an amazing battle, but it also tells you everything you need to know about their rivalry. They're both in the same team. They were in a decent spot to potentially score a point. They went, F this. Yeah. I am going to get ahead of you no matter what. But it was fair. It was hard. It was very, very close to contact, but it was fair.
It was fair.
I actually can't think of better wheel-to-wheel racing we've seen for a very long time. It's right up there, and I can't believe it's not even in the highlights.
Yeah, it's shocking, because it was so good. Like you say, it's one of those where it's so... It's aggressive, but it's respectful at the same time, and you're not just basically running your opponent out of road. So, yeah, well done, Gasly and Ocon, and especially Ocon for getting points.
If they tried to run them out of road, they would have been in the wall. So I guess that's the only thing, is that there was no runoff, so they couldn't do that, which is lovely. Next question. No, there is no questions. It's straight on to biggest winner, driver or team. I wonder who's going to get biggest winner this week. Could it be Lando Norris?
Yeah, it's Lando.
Of course, you've thrown in Yuki.
I just wanted to see your reaction.
I'm going to say Daniel Ricciardo, actually. Biggest sprint winner. Daniel Ricciardo. Now, it has to be Lando Norris.
It's got to be Lando.
He's won his first race. What a moment. What a special feeling for him. And biggest loser.
Bottas.
I believe... No, he nearly got driver of the day, so don't disrespect him like that.
Magnuson.
12% of the vote. Where did that 12% of the vote come from?
I don't know.
I need to know, at what point did we ever think Bottas deserved driver of the day?
It must have been a glitch.
It's the most ridiculous thing. I think even Martin Brundle was like, Bottas? What's he doing up there? It was so weird. But biggest loser...
Magnuson, surely.
Magnuson, well, no, he won our hearts.
Yeah, he did. He was the star, wasn't he, really?
He was the star. Can we give him biggest loser?
Aston Martin
Probably.
don't look great, but I guess Alonso got a point.
Logan Sargent in the wall again.
Maybe Williams for just still not scoring a point when now Alpine have scored as well and has scored this weekend, and RB are pulling away. I think Williams, the fact that they've still not got a point and not a great weekend. Albon had that big lock-up where I thought he was going to cause a safety car at the end. Logan got taken out the race.
Exactly.
Maybe
so
Williams.
Let's go with Williams for that then. So unfortunate for Williams, and we now move on to our predictions, which we made on Wednesday. It is currently 16-15 to me, and we'll start with biggest good surprise, where we both went for Valtteri Bottas, who, well, look, half a point for second and driver of the day vote. I think we deserve it. No, 0 points. Valtteri was the most anonymous driver I think I've ever seen. We were like, low grip, bit of a difficult track. Right? But he was shocking.
We both had the logic. He was awful. Like, all weekend, he was terrible.
He nearly lost to Magnuson. That's saying something. So no points for either of us for Valtteri Bottas. Biggest flop. Oh my God. I went for Max Verstappen.
Fair.
Shall I drop the PO box now for people to send gifts to say thank you, or?
It's impressive, and I think I said this in funniest tweets that people will go, "Oh, how can you give him biggest flop because he's second?" It's like he has averaged first in everything: the sprint, qualifying, and the race all season. And we joked about, even if he, qualifies second or something, or doesn't win the sprint, it'll be biggest flop. But it's not a bad weekend, but it has to be biggest flop because he has been so dominant for so long. So
yeah, thank you, Tommy. You fought my corner for me as a Max fan. I appreciate you. I'm not going to fight your corner for your biggest flop, though, because it's absolutely dreadful.
No, I thought I was onto something after sprint qualifying, thinking, oh, my logic is right. And then, like you say, he remembered and was just like, no.
Who's he? You need to announce it.
Yuki Coda. And just decided to...
Yuki Coda.
Yeah.
Tommy went for Yuki Tsunoda, for those wondering. So there you go.
If you couldn't work out from Yuki Noda.
Yeah, Yuki Noda. Just wanted to clarify. I know that could easily be anyone. So 0 points for Tommy there, but 1 for me. Right, this is where Tommy he cashes in with his boring sprint shootout. I can't believe how close I was. By the way, do I get 2 points because I did Max Verstappen biggest flop? And it's like technically the opposite.
I'll give you 2 just because we need to Massey it.
Let's Michael Massey this. Right, okay, 2 points for me for that because if you go against Verstappen, I think that's fair. Sprint shootout, I went for Charles Leclerc, 1/10 off. After spinning an FP1, I did not think it was even a hope in hell. So half a point then?
No, absolutely not.
Okay, Tommy, you
I went for
Max.
Thank you very much.
Well done. I hope you're happy with the money. Sprint winner, I went for Charles Leclerc. Again, second place, half a point. Thanks.
No, I went for Max.
No points.
Thank you very much.
You went for Max. Well done. Hope you're happy with another piece of the pie. In pole position, I went for Charles Leclerc. And again a tenth and a half off. Shoot me. No points. And Tommy went for...
Max Verstappen.
Well done. So you got 3 points on the bounce for being a boring sod. So, top 3. Oh my God, we are so bad at this. Third place, I went for Perez. No.
P3, I went for Lando Norris. Underestimated him.
Wow. Yeah, that is... I mean, I can't believe you went for third, mate. That's crazy. Second place, I went for Charles Leclerc, and that was not correct either.
Nope. I went for Carlos Sainz for P2, and that was also not correct.
And then I went for Max Verstappen P1 because that's the one thing I didn't put all of Charles Leclerc's eggs in the basket. And it's the one time he didn't bloomin' win.
Wow.
What an idiot. But it's fine. I was hedging my bets thinking this was where the 1 point was going to come in and not for the...
yeah, exactly.
But instead, it's flown in. So I'll take it.
And I also went for Verstappen P1 and it was incorrect.
Wow, 0 points against a P1 for the main race. That is crazy. So we now go to one crazy prediction. Oh, God, I forgot about that, and it's wrong. We will have at least 4 DNFs, is what I said.
It was only Logie.
Only Logie? How
Don't
many DNFs
you dare add the sprint to it.
How many I'm pretty sure I even prefaced this.
2.
Miami sprint results. Was it 2?
I think it was Stroll.
No.
Norris.
Oh, yeah, it was Stroll and Norris. God damn it.
Okay,
I can't even
not quite,
do that.
Can't even get the cheeky
God's
extra.
Sake.
And I went for Kevin Magnuson destroys the world and is banned for life. No, I went for Kevin Magnuson makes SQ3 or Q3.
Oh, he did, didn't he? No, he didn't. He was like 11th or 12th, wasn't he? And then
he was really close.
Like 3 spots
after
right
the
at the
first sprint. I think it was SQ1. He was right up there in like 5th or something. It's like, oh my god, this is coming true. And then no. So we're equal.
That makes us equal on 18 points each as we head into Imola. The 3 crazy predictions from you, wonderful lot. First and foremost, Dan Cataloni, Sargent in the points. We finished P10 in the sprint, but that is not a point, I'm sorry. Hard to believe Alonso back on the podium. Absolutely not. And Night Owl 0208, we will see a last lap overtake for the podium.
Nope.
No, we did not see that either. And that pretty much sums up that. It was a race that has created a new winner. Was Miami a banger? Tom Bellingham, what are your final thoughts?
I think the race was really good. I think people maybe need to slow down on the kind of like, oh my God. 'Cause I saw them saying on Sky, like, this just shows Miami's a really good track. And I'm like, does it though? Don't. Like, I think you could say that about like, I think Vegas proved that because it actually produced good racing, whereas this, I think there was circumstances involved that made it a good race. Like,
realistically, Lando won by 7 seconds, and we had no overtaking in the top 4 positions, and of course the midfield was kicking off a little bit, and it did make it good. But
it is an enjoyable race because it was tense and stuff.
The reason you would call it a banger, and why I called it a banger at the time, was because Lando went into the lead, and that for F1 2024 circumstances is a banger.
There was some decent overtakes and things during the start of the race and stuff like that, and there were things going on. But yeah, I'm not going to sit here and pretend it's the greatest racetrack in the world now. It's just finally delivered an enjoyable race. So well done.
2 enjoyable races as well.
Yep. And then
Miami.
Well done, Miami.
Like 0. We'll have 2 races, and we'll deliver for both of them.
I hope the people that paid $190 for fruit was worth it. That they were treated to a good race.
God. Yeah, absolutely outrageous at the Hard Rock Stadium. And that pretty much sums it up. Thank you, everybody, once and always for being a part of this P1 journey where we have witnessed Lando Norris taking his first ever Grand Prix victory. Sorry, it's literally 1:20 in the morning.
Oh my God.
Words are failing me now. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you soon. Tomorrow, technically, maybe, for driver ratings. That's the next thing that will come out. And then I'm sure we've got some more things to chat about before Imola. So lots of love. See you soon. Lando Norris is a Grand Prix winner. Goodbye.
Bye. Well done, Lando.
But Charles can win the next one now. Lando's had one, that's fine. We've ticked that off the list. Now it's time to see Charles back on the top
No,
step
I've missed
again.
Max winning, to be fair.
Oh, shut your hole.